Right, let's talk about the NHS, because apparently it's no longer a national health service. It's an international health service, open to all, funded by you, and nobody in government thought to ask whether that was actually a good idea. Nigel Farage did, though, and now the entire political class is having a meltdown about it. Welcome back to British Reform, where we cover the stories that make the establishment deeply, profoundly uncomfortable. So here's what's happened. Farage has doubled down, emphatically, unapologetically, at a rally in Aberdeen of all places, on his 2015 pledge to ban asylum seekers with HIV from receiving NHS treatment. He first made this argument before the 2015 general election during a televised debate. The political establishment erupted in horror. Ed Miliband called it disgusting, and the media treated Farage like he'd suggested something unthinkable. Fast forward 11 years and here we are, still having the exact same argument. Except now Reform UK is polling at the top of the charts, and the people who called Farage disgusting are desperately scrambling to look tough on borders. Funny how that works. The actual quote from the Aberdeen rally is worth sitting with for a moment. Farage said, "The idea that someone can newly arrive in Britain and get expensive NHS treatment, whether for HIV or hepatitis or whatever it is." And then he said the words that have apparently broken the internet. This is a national health service. It is not an international health service. Now you can agree or disagree with the policy, but can someone please explain to me why that sentence is controversial? It's not an international health service. It was built by British workers, funded by British taxpayers, and it is currently collapsing under the weight of demand. That's not a controversial observation. That's just Tuesday. And look, here's where the nuance lives. NHS guidelines currently allow asylum seekers to receive treatment for HIV even if the Home Office has already refused their claims. So we've got a situation where the state has looked at someone's case, concluded they shouldn't be here, and then the NHS is still footing the bill for long-term treatment. At around £25,000 per patient per year. That's the figure Farage cited back in 2015. We're talking about serious money being spent on people who have legally been told they have no right to remain in this country. Meanwhile, British people are waiting 18 months for routine operations. You do the maths. But hold on, because it gets richer. Because while Farage is making headlines for saying the quiet part out loud, news has dropped about just how catastrophically expensive Keir Starmer's Great Migration masterstroke actually is. You'll remember the one-in, one-out deal with France, the policy that was presented as a tough, practical solution to small boat crossings. Brilliant in theory, ruinous in practice. Analysis from the Migration Observatory at Oxford has revealed that sending a single migrant back to France now costs just under £50,000 per person. £50,000. That is not a typo. One flight from Stansted-to-Paris, carrying 32 male migrants alongside 73 escorts and 2 paramedics, could cost taxpayers up to £1.5 million. A decade ago, the cost of a removal was around £15,000 per person. Under Starmer, it has tripled. If this government ran a taxi firm, they'd be charging you £300 to get to the airport and forgetting to take you there. And as if that wasn't enough, here's the cherry on top of this magnificent disaster. Of the 38 migrants lined up for deportation on those flights, only 6 were actually removed, because immigration lawyers are refusing to take on the cases. Refusing. The chief inspector of prisons noted in an official report that solicitors were either declining to represent migrants due for deportation or simply not responding to requests for legal assistance altogether. So not only is the scheme extortionately expensive, it barely works when it does run, and the legal profession is apparently staging a quiet boycott of the whole thing. Britain in 2026, where deporting someone who shouldn't be here is harder than getting a GP appointment. Now, and this is where it gets genuinely alarming if you're thinking about the future, a new report has looked at what Zack Polanski and the Green Party would do to UK migration figures if they ever got near the levers of power. The answer, according to City investment bank Pamia Liberum, is absolutely terrifying. Polanski's open borders policy would drive net migration to around 900,000 a year. 900,000. That would push the UK population from 71.5 million in 2029 to 75.9 million by 2034. In 5 years. For context, Reform UK's plan would keep net migration at around 40,000 a year. The Tories would add approximately 160,000. And the Greens want 900,000. Just in case anyone needed a reminder of why the political spectrum on this issue matters enormously, there it is in black and white from an independent bank. What ties all of this together is actually quite simple. We have a political establishment that spent years telling the public their concerns about immigration and NHS access were racist or ignorant or the product of tabloid scaremongering. While they were saying that, the costs were spiraling, the waiting lists were growing, the removal flights were barely functioning, and the lawyers were finding new and creative ways to make sure nobody got deported. Farage has been making essentially the same argument since 2015 and being told he was disgusting for it. He now leads the most popular party in Britain. Maybe, just maybe, the public were right all along and the establishment was wrong. Not a comfortable thought for the people who've been in charge of this mess. But there we are. This story is moving fast and we'll be covering every development as it breaks. If you want the unfiltered truth on UK politics every single day, you know where to come. Hit subscribe, drop a comment with your thoughts, and keep watching British Reform. We're not going anywhere.